Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on what time of day you'll be listening to this broadcast, The Intentions of the Heart. And we're going to be talking about part 3, When the Promise Finds You. And I'm going to be addressing the difference between kings and pharaohs. And the foundation scripture is found in Genesis 24, verses 14 and as well as 43 to 47. I want to apologize for the delay in part 3 because I had some things that I needed to get done that had a deadline. So without further ado, let's get into this lesson. There's a difference between kings and pharaohs. There's a slight distinction between their duties, their positions, and their authority, and what they have, what they are authorized and able to do. Kings bring opportunity, which is a set of circumstances that make it possible to do something, i.e. employment, promotion. What you have to know, there is an occasion involved. Kings open doors. They grant access. Whereas when you face a pharaoh, it is intended and it is designed to release something. Pharaohs are involved in the purpose of recompense, to make amends to someone for the loss or harm that has been suffered, to reimburse, to indemnify, to repay, to pay money to when something was taken from you unjustly. Let me just say it again. Simply, kings open doors of opportunity and pharaohs release spoils and booty. That is significant because what's the significance in spoils is because they were often seized by violence or corruption. So pharaohs obtained wealth through oppression and slavery, through extreme provocation. It was through an unrighteous gain, the acquisition of material wealth or any form of, when it was based in any form of idolatry, material riches that have been transferred, and they've been transferred to systems, to institutions, as well as individual, driven by seats of power, governed by a Babylonian system rooted in bondage. Like the children of Israel that were in bondage for 400 years of oppression is a prime example of what I'm talking about. When you face a pharaoh, you encounter the spirit of Jehovah Gmolah. There is a recompense, there is a restoration, there is recovery of what is lost and what is stolen. The pharaoh is not your king. The problem is most people do not know or understand the difference between what's versus a pharaoh versus a king. They don't understand proper protocol, nor do they know when the king is in a room and how to approach a king, let alone how to approach a pharaoh and what decorum to use when they're with that king as well as the pharaoh. The methodology is different. Knowing who is in the room is just as significant as knowing when to enter a room. So be mindful of that. Most of the time, the majority of people also, they can't discern or recognize divine timing. It's never conducive. I want to make a very strong point here to go to a place, to go to an event or modern day event, unauthorized or uninvited, to force a door that hasn't been designated or designed for you. You must adhere to protocol. You must adhere to procedures and proper etiquettes. Here's a sidebar. When that happens, you're dealing with insecurities. You're dealing with envy. And envy will destroy future opportunities. Pay attention to those who place themselves in seats unauthorized. You will either encounter two things. You will either encounter a Delilah spirit or a Judas from those entering into a palace unannounced or unauthorized, which will cause one to scheme. Delilah is one that will cause one to scheme because she's rooted in manipulation and deception, and it will cause you to operate in this place of drivenness. Or you could be sitting next to your Judas. Judas shows up in the places of your prominence. They will show up at that event in order to break bread with you. They are the ones capable of massive betrayal. They are not at your table or your event to celebrate your open door or your achievement. They are there to sabotage that which has been afforded to you in this season of opportunity. I have learned that over 20 years ago to never push past a closed door. Know when it's your time to shine. But more importantly, recognize when the platform belongs to someone else. It's okay to step back. It's okay to not be there. It's okay not to be at every event and think that you need to show up to say, look at me and what I have. It's not your season. It's not your time. When God is in it, there is an ease. There's not a spiritual weight to it attached to that opportunity. You're not forcing that door. You're not forcing to be there. You're not forcing to show up. Every event, again, you don't need to attend. Be mindful of those who only want to show up at your successes, but are never around for your setbacks. Allow me to break down the Tower of Babel, the characteristics that are indicative to a pharaoh, and the fig tree and how it's symbolic to the duty of a king. The Tower of Babel is proof of that mindset that Pharaoh had if you study the book of Genesis chapter 11 verses 1 through 9. But in verse 3, it states how clearly they wanted to build a tower in order to make a name for themselves. But yet in verse 6, the Lord indicated nothing that they had planned would be impossible for them. That was the ultimate representation of absolute faith. The bottom line is the Lord caused their language, their words, not to be in agreement or not to have understanding. And you need to be mindful of that. Therefore, their expedition, what they wanted to happen, was thwarted. It came to a halt. It was ended. It was unable to manifest. The key was that their faith was in error. What they desired and what they wanted was not surrendered to the will of God. So let's be completely honest and transparent in this moment. Is your faith submitted to the will of God? Here's what you have to know. Faith acquiesces to something by bowing on the spiritual trading floor. No matter how great your faith is, believing a thing must happen regardless is error. Thinking God is required to do what you want based on your faith is presumptuous without surrendering to the will of God. The word says what faith is. It also says faith pleases God and it moves God, but it never says faith can pimp God. You can't lie. You can't cheat. You can't deceive. You can't manipulate. You can't coerce God to surrender his will to your will based on your faith. Again, no matter the depths of your faith, the quoting of your scriptures, the speaking in tongues, the fasting, the praying, to go into the courtroom of heaven, you can never pimp God on the basis of your faith. What you have to understand spiritually about faith is that we are trading, and you're trading what's in your heart. When you are operating with faith, you are trading something every moment. So are you aware of what's in your heart? You need to ask yourself, are you trading from a clean heart like David, or are you trading like Pharaoh to make your name great, to hold a position, to have something that God never authorized you to have? The choice is yours, but God decides the outcome and the consequences, not man. Stay tuned to get further clarity as to why a king has the authorization over the fig tree. Peace and take care. See you soon.